Tomorrow World, starring Chris Pratt, was awesome. I completely enjoyed this movie. I thought from the opening scene where we jump into literally when they're jumping into the future, and spoiler warning if you have not yet seen this movie on Amazon. I don't know if you could rent it somewhere else. I think it's exclusive to Amazon. It might be on Redbox, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. So, spoiler warning if you haven't yet seen this movie. Yeah. So you get, we get dropped into them falling in that great scene when they're falling in Miami, and you see them falling towards the skyscraper. We don't get the whole scope of the thing, obviously, until a few minutes later after we get introduced. But yeah, what a great premise. What a great story. The concept of it was just so good. I love the originality of the aliens. I mean, the alien invasion is not really original, but just the design of the alien was original and terrifying. The way they moved, the way they were hard to kill, the way they adapted according to the story was top notch. I think this is what creative writing, creative imagination in taking something that we all pretty much have grown up with, right? It's one of the oldest, I don't want to say tropes, but one of the most easiest things to say, when dealing with science fiction is, oh, an alien invasion, and how can we, reimagine it? And it sometimes falls in line with so many other movies, and they try to pay homage to other movies or steal aspects from other movies, if you will. Where I felt this one took that same concept, but it, matched it up. I mean, I want to say action sci-fi movie, but there's so many of those, and it wouldn't give this movie justice as to how it felt just original to itself and holding itself to an original concept, from the jumping, from going from the present to the future, to having to come back. And it's really well done. The pacing and everything kind of sets the groundwork for the latter half of the movie, or just the ending of the movie, where our heroes finally succeed in their mission. And the overarching story of Dan and his daughter was a little bit, kind of reminded me of, I want to say it's Interstellar, with Matthew McConaughey and his daughter, in a little bit of that aspect. Maybe it was borrowed from that, but I definitely enjoyed that tugging of the heartstrings, where he has to see his daughter die, but not really, right? Because she knew, because they kind of make it a point telling you when you're gonna die. And in that oil rig, if you will, it was kind of revealed that his daughter knew that she was gonna die at that moment, or in like, she was never gonna leave that rig alive, but she knew that her dad would, if she just gets some out of there, because obviously he dies 7 years later. So that means that it's only 7 days where you're, when you get drafted and you have to go back there, or to the future, and fight the Tomorrow World, war, if you will. So she knew, I guess, that he would go back there. So her mission was to just get the serum and have her dad go back there. And I just love that that was his ultimate motivation. And being a father myself, it just lends itself for those kind of emotions, to think like, what would I do that for my daughter if I could go in the future? And it kind of leads you into these crazy thoughts of saying, what if, and that's what a movie's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to just make you, question everything and ask the questions. Could I do that? Would I be strong enough to do that? And it's fun to think these kind of aspects. So it was just all around just a good movie. Like I said, good story, good pacing. I already talked about the originality, even though there is aspects that it's not original, but it felt like an original movie, especially like I said in so many aspects. It was great acting. The score was very cinematic, very theater like, right? Like this movie could have played really, really good in theaters, I think. The music was epic. The script was awesome. It had good pacing. It hardly had any lulls, and in the little bit of lulls that it had, it recognized it, and it didn't jump scare you enough. Or I mean, a lot. It did do it at certain points, which I did find off-putting because I don't think the movie needed to incorporate jump scares. It was doing really, really good without them, and then it just, you could tell that I don't know if they ran out of ideas or they thought, hey, this would be a great point to like go into a little bit of horror and jump scare, and I just didn't think they needed it. But it was such a great movie. On a little side note before I end, though, there's two things that kind of made me pause a little bit and think outside of the movie. So in the beginning, when we see the future soldiers, they like in the present time, they're watching a soccer match and everyone's watching it, and this is the place and time when the future soldiers decide to come and tell present us, I guess, for sake of this review, that they need us to help them win this war, right? But so she comes in there, but obviously she, like, you could hear her in the intercom inside the stadium, and then you could hear her in the television. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm sure most of you guys have seen like NFL games, and when the referees, when they do like, illegal formation or offside, and they don't work, and you just see their mouth moves, like that's what was supposed to happen. Because I went like, how did they hijack the PA system, and how did they get access to the television stations if they're just popping in? And I don't know if that was an oversight but that was the first thing. Like, how is everybody hearing them? Shit, when you look at NFL, one thing goes wrong and you just see their freaking mouth moves, which it should have been. People should have been like, what? Who are you? What are you doing? But whatever, maybe, fantasy, right? So you got to take it. And then I was glad that it didn't go. The second part was, I'm glad it didn't, but I think his name was Gator and Dan, the African American character, and Dan, Chris Pratt's character. They reminded me of Forrest and Benjamin from Forrest Gump. Especially early in the beginning, I'm like, oh, look, I don't know why, maybe just my mind went off like that, but I was like, oh, he kind of has this Forrest Gump friendship kind of thing going on. Especially how frantic he was when, Gator in the beginning, when he was talking about the draft, he just kept on talking. I'm like, it had very Forrest, and like I said, Benjamin feels. But maybe it was just me, but let me know down in the comments if maybe you thought the same. But again, I completely love this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend this movie. Go check it out. For me, this movie was an A. Very good, just very solid all the way around. This is what a movie is supposed to be. Just fun, good pacing, intriguing storyline, a creative aspect to it that just makes you go in awe. And I was, again, thoroughly impressed. It did go a little bit too long. I think you could have probably cut a good 15 minutes, especially having these multiple ending feel to it. I think if you could have cut it down 15 minutes, it could have been an A+ movie just on the timing. Even though it didn't feel long, but you get satisfied in a certain point, and then the story continues, and it's just still satisfying, but you're like, well, I kind of went too long. Like, they could have taken some little dialogues out of there, maybe, like I said, cut down 15 minutes, but really, really nitpicking at this point. But yeah, solid A rating for me. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, and like always, that's a wrap.